Now, it seems these days that absolutely everything you buy is made in China. Chopsticks, Ming vases, Mahjong sets.
Dogs.
Exactly. And some people are saying that soon we will be buying cars made in the People's Republic.
Thing is, though, OK, China is a communistical country. And that got James and me wondering, communism, has it ever produced a good car?
Now, if your name begins with R and ends with Thurskagel, you might like to claim that we're wrong to blame communism for all these truly terrible cars. You might say that it's actually just a Russian problem and that the Russians are to making cars what the Germans are to making love.
It's a Lada Riva, which started out in life as a Fiat 124, one of the most advanced sports saloons of the period. But the Russians made a few changes to the original design. They replaced the excellent disc brakes with drums, which were worse. They fitted a starting handle, a manual fuel pump, and they made the body from much, much thicker steel, as I shall now demonstrate with my hammer. Ready? It's nuclear. In fact, the only good thing about this car is that you could drive it in a hat.
Let me give you an example of its terribleness. The rear brakes were made from aluminium, and they must have thought, aha! You see, that's very advanced. The West hasn't thought of this. There's a very good reason for that, though. Aluminium has the same braking properties, really, as cheese. Slow down, you bitch.
Despite all these things, the Riva is still being built today under license in Egypt.
Imagine that. A 40-year-old Italian design, improved by the Russians and now built by a bunch of Egyptians. You can't think of anything worse than that.
Interestingly, this particular one was built in the factory where they also made the AK-47 rifle. The difference is, this is much more lethal. So, whose car was the most wretched?
That is simply the worst car in the world. It's even worse than this.
Disagree.
Have you seen the pedals in this? Look where the accelerator pedal is in relation to the other two pedals.
Thought so.
What?
A rev counter?
Yes.
You decadent capitalist pig. Ownership of a rev counter is theft.
This is the colour of a prosthetic limb.
You've got wipers on your headlights.
They don't work.
That's not the point. It's aspirational. Rear suspension,
Yes.
made out of cart springs. What have you got on yours?
Coils.
Exactly.
But yes,
Elitist.
The coils, James, are from a Bulgarian's biro. Anyway, the miracle is not that the Marina won that. It's that it was built in the first place. In Russia, you had to work hard in the car factories, or you'd suddenly discover how difficult it is to mine Siberian salt while wearing a hat made from your wife's head. British communists didn't really bother with any of that. Mostly, in fact, they didn't bother turning up for work at all. They'd simply get to the factory gates where they'd spend the rest of the day chatting and huddling for warmth around a burning dustbin. It does work well as a brazier.
It does, but that's what they were best at, because they spent far more time with braziers than they did making cars.
It's true.
So far then, we've established that communistical cars were not fast, pretty, well-engineered, cheap or reliable. But while all the animals were equal, some were more equal than others.
This is a Gaz Chaika. They made just 144 of these every year, and not one of them ever made it into the hands of the proletariat. These were for high-ranking officials.
Well, aha, you know the KGB used these, except theirs had more powerful engines and they imported their fuel from Finland because it didn't have twigs in it. You should see the amount of space back here. You could chop up 30 dissidents in the back of here.
But despite all these plus points, the Chaika isn't a good car.
What was that? Was that a gear change?
It was.
Is there a man in the gearbox with a sledgehammer?
That's what it feels like.
It's unbelievable.
Simple message. Don't buy a Chinese car until China renounces communisticalness.